Welcome to the debate. Today we are looking at, well, a concept that could completely kill the traditional resume, the living professional record, or the LPR.
Yeah, which is honestly a long time coming.
Right? Because for decades, the way we present our professional selves has been fundamentally broken. I mean, we type up a static list of bullet points, we send it out into the void, and we just hope an employer believes us.
Yeah, it's a terrible system. And the LPR changes that paradigm entirely.
It really does. It operates as a private, worker-owned digital source system that sits permanently beneath your public professional surfaces. But we aren't here to discuss the whole LPR system today.
No, we are honing in on its most critical structural mechanism, the claim map.
Exactly.
And it is a fascinating piece of architecture. If the LRPR is the vault where all your professional artifacts live, like your project files, your performance reviews, your raw data, the claim map is the exact junction where that raw evidence translates into actual professional language.
Right. And the disagreement we are exploring today really centers on the philosophical core of that claim map. Is it fundamentally a rigid governance tool designed to enforce absolute truth and protect the market against unsupported claims?
Or, as I argue, is it a dynamic, developmental framework designed to navigate the nuance, maturity, and context of a worker's evolving professional narrative?
Well, and it's important to note that our discussion here is strictly grounded in the architectural guidelines of the LRPR, which explicitly separate the private source layer from the public rendering layer.
That separation is key. And while we both agree the LPR is revolutionary, we definitely see its engine differently. To summarize my view, I see the claim map as far more than a gatekeeper. It is a nuanced tracking system of professional evolution that maps claim maturity, vital context, and knowledge gaps to capture the messy reality of complex work.
And to summarize my position, I view the claim map as the ultimate accountability mechanism, serving as a strict gatekeeper that ensures every rendering is truthful, proportionate, and unbreakably tethered to concrete evidence.
I just think if we treat it purely as a strict gatekeeper, we miss the actual psychological and career value it provides to the worker. But I know you see a crisis in the current market that this solves.
I really do. The core crisis in professional representation right now is rampant inflation. Resumes constantly drift into unsupported language.
Oh, absolutely.
We see it every day. Someone takes a weekend seminar in machine learning, and suddenly their LinkedIn profile says they are an AI transformation leader.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So the claim map solves this by acting as a strict line of defense, because the claim map connects evidence to what the worker may responsibly say. Before any language leaves your private record and becomes public, the map forces you, the worker, to answer an exact unyielding sequence of questions.
The 7 questions of the claim map.
Yes. What is being claimed? What evidence supports it? What context matters? What confidence level is justified? What privacy boundary applies? What rendering may use it? And what gaps remain?
Right.
By forcing those specific answers, the map prevents the public rendering layer from making promises the private source layer cannot keep. Without a claim map, a resume just drifts into fiction. But with the claim map, the advisor or the individual can choose language that is truthful, proportionate, and defensible. The claim map protects both clarity and trust.
Look, I hear your focus on defense, and that's a compelling argument. But have you considered that viewing this purely as a defensive checkpoint fundamentally limits what the map is actually doing?
I mean, no, because defense is its primary job.
But yes, it asks what evidence supports a claim. But the brilliance of the architecture is in those other questions you just listed, like what confidence level is justified, what gaps remain.
Sure, but those just determine if you can post it or not.
No, not entirely. The LPR utilizes a claim status guide. It doesn't just deal in a binary of true or false, or proven or unproven. It uses maturity labels. A claim can be tagged as emerging, aspirational, context-dependent, or supported with caution.
But those labels exist to restrict the output.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that it operates merely as a pass-fail restriction. It acknowledges that professional truth exists on a spectrum of maturity. Think about a topographical map.
Okay.
A topographical map doesn't just tell you where the impassable mountains are. It shows you the elevation of the terrain you are currently climbing. The claim map charts the territory of a person's career. It allows professionals to track their development, not just to police the final draft of a resume.
Well, let's ground this in reality, though, because I think the whole topographical map idea sounds a bit too poetic for what is essentially a digital verification engine.
Oh, come on, it's not just a verification engine.
It is, though. Let's look at how the software actually behaves. Think of the claim map as an audio mixing board. You have raw, messy sound coming in. That's your source evidence. The claim map is the equalizer.
Okay, an equalizer.
Right. It explicitly dictates which frequencies are allowed to be boosted as validated claims, which must be muted because of private data, and which haven't been recorded clearly enough yet. The equalizer's job is to make sure the audio that hits the public speakers, like the resume, doesn't blow out the system with distortion.
Okay, well, your equalizer analogy is a bit reductive, but I'll take it. But an equalizer isn't just a mute button to stop distortion. A producer uses a mixing board to understand the acoustics of the room. Let's look at the source material's learning log component.
Sure.
If a worker completes that weekend AI basics course you mentioned earlier, the claim map doesn't just act as a bouncer, flash a red light, and say, "Rejected, you are not an AI leader." That's too simplistic.
But it literally does prevent them from claiming the title, though.
Yes, it prevents the inflated title, but how it does that is the crucial part. It connects the evidence of that certificate to a new private claim tagged as emerging AI literacy.
Right. Privately.
Yes, and it explicitly asks, what gaps remain? It allows the professional to safely hold that risky or incomplete claim in their private source layer. They don't have to discard the ambition just because it isn't fully realized. They can hold it privately, see the gaps, and work toward filling them. That is developmental.
I mean, I'm just not convinced by that line of reasoning because even when the claim map labels something as emerging AI literacy, it is doing so precisely to govern the public output. The equalizer is pulling down that slider so the audience doesn't hear it yet.
But it's keeping the signal alive.
Privately. The source guidelines are unambiguous here. Labels like proven, verified, or emerging are not public identity labels. They are private governance tags. The status belongs to the claim, not the person. And that strict governance is exactly what protects clarity in the marketplace.
But governance doesn't just mean building walls. It means providing pathways to explain complex reality. And that brings us to the third question the claim map asks. What context matters?
Context.
Yes, context. I think this perfectly illustrates how the map captures nuance rather than just enforcing constraint. The source material notes that pure evidence, without context, can actively mislead an employer.
That's an interesting point, though I would definitely frame it differently. Yes, pure evidence can be misinterpreted, but introducing context is incredibly dangerous if it isn't governed strictly. Context is usually just a polite word for an excuse.
I strongly disagree with that. Let's run a hypothetical based on the text. Imagine a dashboard showing a late project. On paper, if an employer is just looking at the evidence vault, the timeline, the initial brief, the delivery dates, the project looks like a massive failure. The metrics are in the red.
Right, it looks bad.
If the claim map only cared about absolute binary truth, the claim would be failed to deliver project on time. But the map forces the worker to build a context layer.
And what does that context layer actually do?
It rescues the worker's narrative. The context layer captures that this project was actually inherited from a previous manager after it had already failed.
Okay.
It captures that the worker was operating with half the necessary budget and that delivering it late actually prevented a much larger organizational loss. In this scenario, the claim map doesn't just coldly verify a late delivery. It bakes the context into the claim itself.
I see what you're saying, but
It recognizes that professional reality is highly contextual. It protects the worker from being reduced to a misleading binary metric.
hold on. If we allow context to heavily modify the claim, aren't we risking the exact drift into unsupported language that the LPR was built to prevent? Think about it. If I can go into my claim map and write a paragraph saying, well, yes, the project was late, but the context is that my team was under-resourced and the client was totally unreasonable.
Right.
How do we keep context from becoming fiction? How do we stop a worker from using the context field to artificially inflate their actual contribution?
We stop it because the claim map forces you to treat context as evidence. It is not a free text rationalization field where you just type out a diary entry about how hard your job was.
Well, I would hope not.
It's not. The map binds the context tightly to the source material. It asks you to map the before condition, the after condition, the constraints, and the stakes. If you claimed the project was under-resourced, where is the resource allocation document in the evidence vault? It has to be linked.
Right, the proof.
Exactly. Because the context is logged and verified in the private source layer, when the worker goes to the renderer to create an interview talking point, the complexity of their work is authentic. The map isn't softening the truth with excuses, it is sharpening it with reality.
I agree that it sharpens it, but notice the mechanism you just described. It only works through rigorous governance, by forcing the worker to link the context to tangible documents in the evidence vault. The map demands that you prove the context just as rigorously as you prove the outcome.
Yes, it demands rigor.
It maintains the absolute boundary between the private source layer and the specific rendering, which is precisely how the map operates when we look at the threat of artificial intelligence in the modern job market.
Oh, you're talking about the AI translation log.
Exactly. The AI translation log is a feature of the LPR that works hand in hand with the claim map. And honestly, it is a perfect example of the map acting as a strict gatekeeper. Think about how people write resumes today. They plug a few vague bullet points into an LLM and ask the AI to make them sound impressive.
Yeah, and the AI spits out phrases like, spearheaded a paradigm-shifting organizational transformation.
Exactly. Which is almost always a completely hallucinated exaggeration.
Yeah, it's just nonsense.
Right. But let's look at how the LPR handles this mechanically. When a worker uses the AI translation log within the LPR to draft a resume bullet, the AI doesn't just get to invent language. The claim map acts as a governor on the LLM.
Right.
It cross-references the AI's output against the privacy labels and maturity tags attached to the evidence. If the AI suggests the word spearheaded, but the evidence vault only contains an onboarding checklist and a manager review that tags the worker's role as supported, the claim map literally strikes the inflated word out.
It does.
It rejects the overstated claim and forces the rendering to say, created shared onboarding process documentation. It neutralizes the threat of AI-generated inflation entirely.
That is a brilliant mechanism, and I don't disagree that it neutralizes inflation. But I argue that the map's most profound feature isn't cutting down overgrown claims, it's watering the ones that haven't been given enough light.
You mean protecting against erasure?
Precisely. Because we focus so much on workers artificially inflating their resumes, but it is a massive, incredibly common trap for workers to routinely diminish their own agency.
That's true.
Professional work is almost always collective. Think about the last time you asked a colleague what they did on a major launch. So often the response is just, oh, I just helped out. They erase their own value.
The self-diminishing narrative. We see it constantly, especially with women and underrepresented groups in corporate environments.
Exactly. But watch what happens when that worker runs their experience through the claim map. The map asks, what is being claimed? The worker might timidly enter, assisted with the launch. But then the map asks, what evidence supports it?
Right.
As the worker pulls in the emails, the project timelines, and the meeting notes, the claim map forces a realization. The evidence proves they didn't just assist. They created the underlying checklist, they coordinated the department manager's input, and they became the primary point of contact for the vendor.
Yeah.
The exactness of the claim map gives the worker the justified confidence to claim their true agency. It rescues them from their own modesty.
I'm completely with you on the outcome there. Rescuing a worker from erasure is a massive benefit. But again, look at the engine driving that rescue. It does this through uncompromising proof. Well, let's look at the witness and feedback layer, which feeds directly into this process. Even if a worker downplays their role, a witness claim, like a department manager's official observation, can validate their leadership in the claim map.
Yes, exactly.
But the LPR material is incredibly strict here. It states, quote, do not ask a witness to verify what they did not observe. Witnesses require consent and specific bounded observations. So even in the act of rescuing a worker from erasure, the claim map is operating as an inflexible governance tool. It prevents erasure by demanding absolute accuracy.
Okay, but let's talk about the parameters of that accuracy, though. Because there is one question on the claim map we haven't fully unpacked yet, and I think it's the one that proves this system is built for the worker's nuance, not just the employer's audit.
You mean what privacy boundary applies?
Right. What privacy boundary applies?
Wait, let's clarify that for a second. When you say privacy boundary in this context, we need to explain how that physically works within the LPR. Are you talking about the map locking down proprietary company data?
That's part of it, yes.
Because to me, that is the ultimate proof that it is a governance tool. It acts as a firewall. Let's say a worker has evidence from a highly confidential client implementation. The LPR is private by default, but the worker still needs to claim the experience.
Right.
The privacy label on the claim map dictates how that evidence can be used. It might label the claim as metadata only, meaning the map records that the project happened, the dates and the scale, but it completely locks down the proprietary details. Or it might tag it do not use externally. It strictly controls what the rendering layer can output, ensuring that the worker remains accountable to legal and ethical boundaries.
Yes, it acts as a firewall, but pay close attention to how it functions architecturally. Privacy isn't a later compliance step tacked on at the end of the process.
What do you mean?
You don't write your whole resume and then hand it to legal to redacted. The material explicitly states that privacy travels with the evidence and the claim from the moment of inception.
Why does that distinction matter so much, to your point?
Because it is exactly what allows the worker to safely maintain a rich, highly detailed private source layer without owing every audience the whole record. By making privacy granular, using labels like shareable with care, summary only, or redacted, the map gives the worker the freedom to track their most complex, sensitive experiences for their own memory and growth.
I see.
If privacy was just a binary lock, workers wouldn't bother logging the messy, confidential realities of their jobs. The privacy boundary is exactly what makes the nuanced developmental tracking system possible.
Okay, I hear that. The governance creates the safety for the comprehensive record to exist. You're saying that without the strict rules, the worker wouldn't trust the system enough to be honest with themselves?
Precisely. The strictness is in service to the worker's self-discovery, not just the market's need for verification.
Well, we've covered a significant amount of ground today, unpacking the mechanics and the philosophy of the LPR. I think it's time we summarize our positions.
Sounds good.
For me, the claim map remains the definitive structural anchor of the living professional record. Without it, the evidence vault is just a chaotic pile of files, and a resume is just unverified marketing. By forcing a worker to answer strict questions, what is being claimed? What evidence supports it? What confidence level is justified? What privacy boundary applies? The map acts as a rigorous equalizer. It filters out the noise, the inflation, and the hallucinated AI jargon, turning artifacts into truthful, defensible renderings. It is, fundamentally, a governance tool that protects clarity and trust in an incredibly noisy market.
And I would summarize my position by saying that while it certainly governs, its true architectural value is as a vital instrument for navigating the living, breathing maturity of a career. By tracking claim status on a spectrum, holding safe space for missing evidence, and capturing the crucial, verifiable context of complex work, it honors aspirations and nuance. It rescues workers from their own erasure. It is a developmental map, charting the reality of a professional life, which is rarely linear, rarely simple, and frankly, never binary.
I think where we completely converge is on the absolute necessity of the map itself. We both agree that without the claim map, any professional output is just disconnected guesswork.
Absolutely.
By forcing a deliberate, structured pause between the private source layer and the public rendering layer, the claim map fundamentally protects both the worker and the audience.
Yeah, it ensures that evidence must always come before wording. The LPR is a system of relationships between what you did and what you can prove. The claim map is the exact junction where those relationships are forged and tested.
As we wrap up, I think there is immense value in looking at our professional histories not as static, disposable documents, but as deeply governed, worker-owned systems. The depths of the evidence vault and the context layer hold much more to explore than we could cover today.
It really does force you to look at your own professional footprint differently. I mean,
Think about the last time you updated your profile. You probably stared at a bullet point and thought, did I really lead that initiative, or did I just manage the fallout?
Yeah.
The claim map forces you to answer that honestly, in private, before you ever post it publicly.
It does. It asks, what confidence level is actually justified? We leave it to you, our listeners, to decide. Do you need a claim map more to rigorously guard your truth from inflation, or to discover the actual undeniable scope of your professional value? Thank you for joining us on The Debate.